Welcome to the MFD Pod, the show where we talk with operators and AI leaders about how they're scaling their businesses with AI. I'm Mike Gelb. I'm the Partnerships Manager here at MFD. Today, Pranay and I are joined by Greg Brown, who is the VP of Operations at Dude Wipes. Dude Wipes is the company behind billions of flushable wipes. We dive into how Greg and his teams are utilizing AI to supercharge operations at Dude Wipes. So without further ado, here's Greg. Greg, thanks so much for coming back on the show. How are you doing?
Good, dude. How about yourself, man?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us here on a Friday. Pranay, also awesome to have you here as well.
Absolutely excited to be here. We're really bullish and gung ho on AI and SMB operations, and hearing operators talk about how they're implementing AI in the Wild West is amazing always.
Totally. So let's get started. Greg, when did you personally start experimenting with AI, and what was maybe the aha moment when you thought, hey, this actually could change how we work at Dude?
Yeah. So, I essentially, as soon as like ChatGPT came out, I got into it and I was diving in and just having fun playing with it. And it very quickly I realized that like this is for sure gonna change how we work and how we all operate on a day to day. Just at the beginning, it was more just having fun with it and personally using it and didn't quite know yet how to integrate it into to work or anything like that. It wasn't really on my radar in the beginning of the early days.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, same here. Once ChatGPT came out, I mean, I was also just like, um, obviously floored, but just kind of experimenting as well, and everything. How about you, Pranay? When did you start tooling around with AI?
I think GPT launched end of 2022, and I think all of 2023 it was like it's a toy, it's fun, is this and that, and then we started looking at some applications coming out of it, and so to me, I think at manufactured, I try to operate the product in partnership with the CTO, and at that time, I was trying to figure out what are the real use cases you could get out of this because 80% of tech coming out of Silicon Valley is actually garbage, and 20% of it is amazing. You got to know the difference between the 80 and the 20. And so, how it applies to small and medium businesses, because most businesses don't give a shit about some fancy tech, but they care about their business, right? And so, we were trying to figure out what's the like smallest thing ChatGPT can do without hallucinating. And we started experimenting in September of 2023, and we put together a really small team to create what we call an like a sales agent, and that would basically reply to customers. That was like the first application we did, and we got somewhere off. And no, I'm not going to name the person we named her after because very early in the business of the AI, we realized that we don't want AI to look like an AI. We want it to look like a human and mimic a human because humans give other humans a huge amount of latitude and error, but they give AI like zero latitude and error. And then they diss AI because they don't like machines, because humans hate machines. Let's put it that way. Most 99% humans hate machines. They adopt machines because they have no choice and then they embrace them. But the first is essentially fuck machines. And then they're like, oh, I have to use this. And then they're like, oh, this is useful. And then they're like, I can't live without it. So like that's the arc. And so with AI, it's the same thing. So we're like, how do you make an imperfect AI work for humans? And so we basically created a person that was all piece of software. And so that's been the paradigm. And so 2023 September is when we started doing it.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, we implemented. So Sean and I, our founder, were had a conversation a few months back where we just said, how do we get AI to be part of our culture, right? How do we integrate this technology just so people are comfortable with it, they understand it, they're not scared of it, it becomes a tool, part of their toolkit. So we actually we put ChatGPT in everywhere at the business. Got like a business account with ChatGPT to make sure data security was good, and then we just educated on, hey, here are different ways that you can just use it. It could help with emails or your research or be a thought partner and just different things. Not yet even building agents, just like putting it in everybody's hands to try to just build it part of your day to day workflow and culture. And we saw immediately with that, just that step, we saw some really cool things coming out of the business, and in ways people started using it outside of also having a lot of fun in creating some goofy images and stuff with dude wipes and poop and all these crazy things that we do. But but yeah, we that was like our first real step as a business in how do we introduce AI, was really just giving it to people and educating on it and what it is. And I say AI, really LLMs, right? Because I think AI, anybody that knows AI is a very broad term. So really the LLMs were where, that's our first true introduction to dude, I think, for like outside of the technical team.
Did you guys see a difference in your team on some people pushing immediately, some people holding back, some people having a adoption curve, some people have a knowledge curve, and how did you guys smooth that out with everyone?
Yeah, so yeah, so some people immediately, right? Some people have already been using it, especially we had some of our creative team who's already was trying to use it like, for creative features, so they were very familiar with it. Some people just using it personally. So there were definitely different levels coming in when we launched ChatGPT. But what we did was really we educated. That was the big thing. Lunch and learns, right? 30-minute quick. What is prompting? How do you prompt? What are best practices around prompting? So that's really how we leveled everybody up to kind of even the playing field a little bit. And then from there, some people really leaned in and some people didn't. But what didn't want to do was feel like it was forced. We didn't want to tell everyone you need to be using this. We wanted to teach them why this should be part of their toolkit, and just like we have other toolkits, this is now another avenue for you to use. So yeah, so that was a big thing, not forcing it, but really educating on the why, and adding it to the toolkit philosophy.
That's great.
How did you think about, I mean, to kind of Pranay's point, you're, prompting, you're retooling, you're trying to figure out how useful it can be, right? Because a lot of sometimes when you start, I guess, training kind of this, when you start off with maybe ChatGPT, maybe some of the responses are not exactly what you want to actually for it to kind of hear. How did you think about, Greg, usefulness and how it was actually helping you in your own day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, once again, so we didn't try to come in and solve an immediate problem or force AI anyone. What you definitely need a champion, right? So, like me and another person on my team, we really dove in and just tried to start using these tools and educating ourselves. So even before I launched it, I took like a month to just dive in and learn and watch all these YouTube videos and talk to other people in my network and see what they were doing.
What were some of the tools, by the way, that you were kind of like diving in on? Like obviously ChatGPT, but what are like maybe some of the other applications you were using?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of SaaS software started rolling out AI components, and I think you guys kind of said it earlier. Sometimes things coming out of Silicon Valley are great, and sometimes they're not. So, I won't name any specific softwares, but what we started doing was we started leaning in on what are these AI features that everybody's launching, and then we started realizing that they're not really working the way that we want. Now these are, this is earlier day. I think AI is evolving so quickly, right? So like all these guys who rolled out AI features and tools.
Except on your Apple phone.
Oh,
Except
yeah,
on your Apple phone.
that's true. But Gemini, the Gemini phone is, or Android, that's coming. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard 10. They really integrated it very well into 10. So I'm very curious to hear about it.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm tempted to switch to Android. First time I'm tempted to switch
I've
to
heard about it.
Android.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah. So like from a tool application, what we were finding is that they were not meeting our expectation, right? So we were trying to lean in on the AI front in some of our SaaS software that we're using and operational tools, and our accounting management tool that should help us with close and reconcile books. It just wasn't working the way that they said it would, right? And that's where we started lurking and playing with like, hey, if we upload, like, how can we use ChatGPT to help us, and different things like that. And that's where we started playing with it. And it's trial and error. There is no one formula. These things are it comes down to how you ask the questions and how you prompt, which we had to learn that how important that was. And then we learned best practices, and really, best practices. It's funny enough, like you see those Instagram or TikTok people telling you, hey, try these things, try them, see what works for you. Watch a YouTube video on what's working for other people, and you'll start figuring that out. So then we educated on that, and then the next thing you know, people are trying it. Then they ask questions, and the more you used it, the more you got better. We had to also teach a little bit about the risks, right? Like what is ChatGPT actually doing, right? It's trying to predict what you want to hear, it's not. So you had to ask questions correctly, so that you didn't get biased answers, but you kind of got as unbiased or answers as possible. But so all of that groundwork that we did, I mean, we're not even talking agents at the moment. All that groundwork is just making people comfortable with the technology and getting the business just part of culture. Like AI is part of our world now. We had to integrate that aspect of it to Dude Wipes.
You guys are like light years ahead of most of the consumer applications. I think one of the things I tell people all the time is AI is making every human a kindergarten teacher. You got to have patience, you got to give it direct instructions, you got to tell it many times, and you've got to get the desired outcome after several times of the kid running away. To me, that's what it looked like. Like, if you're a good kindergarten teacher, you're a great AI trainer.
It's true. It's true. I mean, you have to have patience. You have to understand how to talk to it and how to work with it, especially these LLMs. And once again, I do think it is a tricky thing to learn, what AI is and what it isn't, and what an LLM is. So, um, yeah, so that was kind of Dude's first step into this new version of AI as we know it today. Was just getting ChatGPT in everyone's hands and educating around it. Education.
As you're learning and as you're iterating, when then you think, okay, maybe enough people are on the team that are actually maybe using this. This is actually, maybe we should actually create, our own agent, or maybe have some standard process, right? Just in terms of using AI. What did that training look like in terms of, first of all, when did you feel comfortable that you actually wanted to create an agent of your own? And how did you think about even standardization when within Dude Wipes working with agents?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, one thing that I'd like to preference is we didn't go out and say we need an AI agent, right? We didn't want to force AI agents on the business. What we as we educate the business on general LLMs, on the more, technology side of things, we needed to educate ourselves on this new toolkit that we now had, which are agents that, as we think of them. But we didn't so we're already down this automation path, which with a lot of like bots, right? So we're doing a lot of RPA stuff like robotic process automation, which is very straight line types of automations, rule based, you know. But what we wanted to say is we started educating ourselves on what technologies are available in this AI agent and how does that create flexibility in our very straight line bots. Now we come to a fork in the road, we can actually make a decision. Not just one fork in the road, but we can have 1,000 forks in the road. We can make a decision. So, but we once again didn't want to force this onto the business. We didn't want to go. We still wanted to make what is the most valuable process hold, you know, that we needed to tackle and solve it. And then we said, all right, we have this toolkit and AI agents now part of our toolkit. So we were evaluating a process, and this is how Diesel Dan kind of bubbled up to the top. Was we had this process and we looked at it, we broke it down, and it just happened to be, hey, you know what? We actually need to pull from this AI agent toolkit to get this process accomplished. And that's kind of how we first evaluated and tackled where does an AI agent even need to be used. We didn't force it. We let the problem tell us that okay, this problem needs an AI agent or an AI type of decision tree to be useful.
So, what were then the initial problems that you thought that AI could help solve?
Yeah, for sure. So the initial problems that you know we wanted the baby. So we got a laundry list of projects that we today I still have them that we want AI to solve for us. But we wanted to start with something that we felt was very obtainable, and we knew learning and how to engineer it and train it, which was a whole thing to, I mean, you're actually, I actually had the business person working and training an AI, a robot, essentially. It was very different experience than I think any of us have ever had on the team. So, the initially we just said, we have this problem where and this is Diesel Dan, our first agent on the crap team, we are planning our inbound trucks from manufacturing to our and we get product, it goes on quality hold, and then it gets released off quality hold, and we have to schedule what products do we want to come on the truck and pick up. And there's a lot of data that goes into that. One, it's what's available to pick up, but two, it's what do we need to be picked up and where does it need to go, and what's the priorities, right? So, and then how do we maximize a truckload for that? So we felt like that was a manual process, daily done. We're getting different data sources in Excel and emails. Some of it's in our ERP system. And it was taking, I think it was 4 hours a week, roughly, we were spending on this process. And we felt like this was just prime for automation in general. Once again, not necessarily saying we needed AI for it, but we just knew the process could be easier done. And then we started breaking down the process and we layered in our AI aspects saying, hey, here we need to decide on what's going on what truck. AI can help maximize those trucks, take in the priorities and really make sure that we are doing this as efficiently as we can. So um, I don't know if once again, I don't think we like said this is a prime thing for AI. We kind of said this is a prime process to be automated, and AI just kind of made the most sense to help us get there.
That makes a lot of sense. How did you decide on Diesel Dan? And can you talk to me a little about like the implementation and actually creating Diesel Dan and obviously the crap team?
Yeah, for sure. So, and the CRAP team does stand for something, right? Cognitive Reasoning and Automation Platform. So, we did want it to have meaning behind our AI agent team here at Dude Wipes, but also stay on brand with calling it the crap team. So yeah, Diesel Dan, once again started as this process we identified, and then once we got into implementation, right? So first, and Diesel Dan on the back end, just to be clear, he's a combination of some bots and some AI agent, right? It's not one like clean this is an AI agent running the whole thing or all LLM. There's some of the data pulls that we have are more of a what you can call an RPA bot, kind of doing the data pull and then kind of handing the data over to Diesel Dan, the AI agent, to then analyze the agent itself. So the implementation of that was first. It all starts with information. Where's your data at, and how do you get that data? So that was the first thing, solving that problem, which is a challenge for a lot of people that I talk to. Right, that just getting the data in the right place is the first challenge a lot of companies kind of get stuck at. From there, right, it was what decisions is Diesel Dan making? Are there any constraints Diesel Dan needs to live within? Right, we know there's inventory priorities. We know that there's inventory, only so much inventory available. We know how heavy can a truck be, how many pallets can cube and all that stuff. So we kind of built these constraints, and we did end up using OpenAI, the O3 model for Diesel Dan. So Diesel Dan is essentially running on OpenAI's O3 model in the background. We tried a few of them. Um, so we loaded these constraints kind of into Diesel Dan's memory, let's say, and then we started feeding Diesel Dan these different data sources that we wanted to use, and it was from there. It was prompting. And you kind of hear about prompt engineering, and you kind of do it when you interact with ChatGPT, but you don't really realize that when you're building these agents on the back end, essentially that's all it is. It's just prompt engineering. It's talking to them to try to get them to then look at what you fed them, the data, to then respond in the way that you're looking for.
And do you guys, the Dude Web have an in-house technology team, or did you guys did write special code for this, or did you guys use on off-the-shelf tools for this?
No, we have a third party that we use for a lot of our automations, and we lean heavily into a platform for our RPA processes specifically, called Make.com. It's like a beefier Zapier essentially. Really good, integrates directly with.
Like N8N is one of them, and
Yeah.
Make.com is another one of them. So it's
Yep.
like pulling together all these processes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's a lot of really solid platforms for that today, and then they also help us facilitate some of the management of Diesel Dan. Now, Diesel Dan, I wouldn't say is the most complex agent out there. He's kind of really focused on optimizing one truck. He does run, where our analyst was probably thinking through maybe 60 different combinations of those trucks. I don't know. He's doing, and I can look at the data. I think last we looked on a larger file, he did 145,000 different truck combinations, right? So we're also seeing better trucks, more efficient trucks coming in, right? So not only did this streamline a process that took 4 hours a week to being now minutes a week of oversight, essentially, we also now are getting more efficient in how we are shipping things. But yeah, so a lot of that training, a lot of what our analyst was, what our dev team was doing initially on the back end was prompting, man. I mean, it's just sitting there and it's kind of talking to the thing. And once you get the data integrated, right, that's probably the harder part. But then from there, it's talking to this LLM to say, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. These are my constraints, and coming up with what are the prompts that return the responses that kind of you're looking for.
From the time you guys thought about the problem to the time Diesel Dan went live, how much time did it take for you guys to actually start operating it on a daily, weekly basis with no prompt engineering?
Yeah, with no prompt engineering, I think it took about 8 weeks, our first stab, and we actually feel that was we're going to be faster next time. We learned a lot our first time, right? So we feel confident that these next few AI agents, some crap team members that we're going to be introducing here over the next few months, they are going to be. I think are probably more 6 to 5 weeks, probably on average, just because there's a lot to learn. Just like when you start talking to ChatGPT for the first time, right? You learn. You get the answers you're looking for faster than you did when you first started. So yeah. And Diesel Dan's been operating for what I think about 2 weeks now. And I think on the back end, he has cost me about $3.50 of operating processing. So running daily, 145,000 truckload combinations a day, his processing time has cost me $3.50. And think about someone's FTE's full time, 4 hours a day. What's that hourly salary, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. There's two types of agents, right? One where you ask an agent its opinion, and the other when you want a clear understanding of an agent. And what you're telling me about these kind of splits the difference, which is here is some data, tell us the most optimal outcome, which is basically kind of splitting down the middle. Do you feel like if you had a clear directive, which is, hey, fill out these forms like the RPA stuff you're doing, and then you had to layer workflows on top of it, do you feel like that is where most agents, like people starting out, like consumer companies starting out who are not as advanced as you guys are, do you feel like that's a better way for them to start on the agentic path? Or do you feel like generative, where video and creative is a better way to start out? Like, where do you think they should start?
Yeah, I think if you're not doing some of the creative stuff with AI today, you definitely should be. That's the lowest hanging fruit, right? You don't need a developer to go on VO3 and start generating some really impressive content, you know. Um, but I do think when somebody is looking to actually build an agent, yeah, once again, let the problem tell you that an agent is kind of needed, right? Don't force it, but it's probably going to be layered on top. So like the other day, when we do these working sessions with the team, and we were introducing the crap team to the business, and you know people started coming up with ideas, and somebody on our finance team was like, oh, can we use this to compare this one vendor's bill to what we expected, kind of do a reconciliation process. And I said, like, yeah, sure, but that's, my question to them then was, once the reconciliation is done and once it finds that maybe we got mischarged or something, what's the next action that you as a human would take, right? And let's keep pushing that and automating that. Oh, you need to reach out to somebody, you need to send an email. Cool, we can have it do that. We can have it generate, So that's where we're going from kind of basic RPA comparison, automate reporting essentially, to now taking action in the next step of interacting with other people and vendors and so forth.
How does Diesel Dan interact with your team members? Is it on Slack? Is it on email? Is it on a platform? Is it on a website? Like, how do people ask Diesel Dan for question?
We have our crap team channel, and Diesel Dan is in there, and he pops up every day when he gets his reporting in the morning, and he's done analyzing it. It's about 10 minutes of analyzing, and he comes up. He'll create 4 different chats essentially. We have 4 locations that we're looking at typically from a release product that we're trying to run him on. So he creates 4 chats, and then if you open that thread in Slack, he's going to kind of lay out all the trucks that he's suggesting. Now, we've added that layer of suggesting and approval. That's part of the adoption that we see. It's important to get that human touch and still have that adoption and oversight, but it's not necessarily required, but we find it to be helpful. And I'm just looking at Diesel Dan right now, his latest chat. So, and then our analyst, who's doing these approvals within those threads, will reply to Diesel Dan, and I can see here. So Diesel Dan, from our Tennessee location today, suggested 2 trucks. One was 40 pallets, one was 60 pallets, and didn't look like our analyst had anything to say other than great, go create those. And then Diesel Dan said, cool, you're all good with them. I'm going to go into your ERP system, generate them, and get them off to the logistics team so they can go plan the book and carry us. So sometimes our analysts, boys might look at this and say, hey, you know what? I think I got some new information on my desk. Like, let's reprioritize some of this. And he'll talk with Diesel Dan and go back and forth, and they'll reconfigure some trucks and reprioritize some trucks, and then but no conversation from what I've heard in these 2 weeks is taking more than a few minutes.
And when you guys were integrating into NetSuite, how hard was it for Diesel Dan to get an integration done with NetSuite and then to do the applications via all those APIs and to actually go to the right cells and make sure that it was putting in the right documents and the right invoices?
Yeah, and this is where you have your developer part, your resource, right? Because they're writing these APIs, and this is probably more of the bot aspect of Diesel Dan than the AI aspect of Diesel Dan, where you're kind of, you know, Diesel Dan at this point, and we are going to keep expanding Diesel Dan's scope as he's onboarded to Dude Wipes. But right at this point, he knows that he can really only go create one type of document or 2 types of documents, if I remember correctly. So he doesn't really have the flexibility to just go right to anything in NetSuite. He's kind of, once again, it's more of a bot. That's that straight line rules defined for him. The real AI is the analyzing of the data, and then making the suggestions, and then being able to interact with those suggestions and change. And then it kind of hands it back to, once you say go create this stuff, that's kind of the bot then. Doesn't sound as sexy as the AI agent, but I do think it's an overlooked aspect. People think, AI agent, and they, but really just don't force the technology. Let the solution come to itself. It's more, it's a combination for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Have you heard of MCP, which is the new API protocols that are coming out with these LLM companies, which is like the human-to-human conversational protocol? Like, what do you guys think of that? Have you guys experimented with any of that yet?
Yeah, we are experimenting. I don't have too much that has come to fruition yet out of it, but once again, trying to stay in front of all this stuff. It's hard because it's changing so quickly. We are definitely experimenting, and we're really happy to see a standardization coming out and kind of bubbling to the top, because we know that could take a while, especially when you have so many big players in the space. So we have leaned in on ChatGPT, which hasn't been the first to adopt MCP as a platform. So that is actually a little limiting. Now we are running on Google, and Google has, so we've been playing with it a little bit more on the Gemini front, which we also have more on the tech side. We play with a lot more of the different AIs than maybe the whole thing that the business does as a whole. But yes, we think MCPs are going to be a huge unlock between how these AI can talk to one another, and really even how Diesel Dan can interact eventually with Sample Susie, I think is one that we were talking about doing for our sample platform or something like that. So, you know, like how do those two going to help each other, right? Sample Susie might place the sample order eventually, and Diesel Dan plans the logistics, right? MCP is going to really kind of help some of that data and talking between them. You know, some of this stuff gets a little bit technical. That's why we got our partners. So I don't know if I can tell you how it all works on the back end.
That's cool. One of the things at Manufactured that we've done, essentially, we've been leaning in double down on AI as employees. And I think I'm so grateful that you guys are the first in the series of these AI podcasts we're doing, because one of the things we see is, AI mimicking humans in interactions and operations is actually like a best practice in these businesses right now, because otherwise it's very hard to kind of make sense of that machine interface for humans. And it's like fantastic to see what you guys have done here. So congratulations on all the success you guys have had with the automation.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and really we're just getting started. I mean, this is just, I think all these businesses, I've talked to a few of them over the last, few weeks, and, you know, everybody is trying to figure it out, and we're gonna keep sharing our journey to try to help others along, so.
No, this has been fantastic, Greg. Just real quick, Pranay, can you just tell us as well a little bit about how manufactured MFD, your approach to building, to kind of solving problems for SMBs when it comes to and using AI agents and building AI agents in order to solve those problems?
So we've been offering tech-enabled services to medium-sized companies, small and medium businesses in the physical goods space. And what we realized last year was we had to automate our own operations because we don't want to be a 100% team. And so we started building AI agents in early 2024 and built our own technology in-house. We're a technology company as well. So we basically built an agent generator in-house. We essentially built it off our own tools and created, we at this point, 40% of the manufactured team is a piece of software. And so our inbound SDR is an AI, our sourcing manager is an AI, our credit analyst is an AI, our accounting manager is an AI. So we essentially have created a way for our agents to operate really complex pieces of the business in tandem with our human operators. And so basically what that means is we actually figured out, we have built technology to create an agent. We've built technology to observe how those agents make decisions at every fork in the road. One thing you said, Greg, really resonated is when an agent reaches a fork in the road, what choice does it make based on the rules it's given? And then understanding why they made that choice is something that we build software around, so you can actually see it as it happens and then reverse that fork as it goes along. But then the third thing is to actually figure out how to improve those prompts over time, and then measure the data on the back end and seeing what's actually happening. And so we've essentially created this entire infrastructure, software infrastructure around it that allows anyone to come in and build and operate AI agents. And so we don't think of AI agents as bots or tools. We think of them as people. And so we gave them personalities, we gave them KPIs, we gave them faces, just like you guys did. And it's kind of fascinating to see how humans interact with them. And so that's essentially how we build technology. Now we're going out to, people in agencies and companies who want to try and build and operate those agents alongside us.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's awesome, and I love the philosophy you're taking, that these are people, and these are your coworkers. They're going to be your coworkers. You're going to interact with them, and you know, that's why we gave Diesel Dan a name, and that's why we also, you know, created this department called the Crap Team, right? And I think the more that people adopt that philosophy and start really just embracing, you know, looking at these as coworkers, and ways to help you be more efficient as an organization, and in your own job, right? Elevate yourself, because now you can offload a few things to your AI agent colleague, and you can be more strategic. That's the goal, right? We want everybody working on more strategic stuff. And that's yeah, I like that philosophy a lot.
Yeah, and I think that what's really fascinating too is just from the Dewey's perspective. I mean, you all already are a pretty lean team. I remember last year when we spoke, you were, I think, a team of 24, and now you're at about 30. Is that right? You wanted to hire 6 more people, or what are you at right now in terms of?
Yeah, we're a little higher than that. We're in the 40, or we're in the high 30s right now. But we are bringing, we're bringing some things in house that we didn't have. So it was just a little bit of a change in strategy, but as far as I could tell you, for our size, we're really proud of our leanness, and not only that, just like also work life balance is really important. So just being, you could say you're lean, but if you're working 100 hours a week, I mean, that's nothing to be excited about. But to be able to be lean and also have care about balance for everybody on the team is hugely important. And we truly believe leaning in on technology and making these investments are playing into that strategy and allowing us to kind of grow that way and be smart about it. So
Yeah, Diesel Dan doesn't sleep.
Diesel Dan does not sleep. We give him a break on the weekends, but he could be running if we needed him to. So
Yeah, we have a sourcing manager. So all we do Slack too with all our agents, and so we have employees in India and China who are hitting up the agent at 12 in the night and getting answers in 15 minutes, and we don't have been look at it. And it's kind of just part of life now, where you embrace like your robotic sidekick or your buddy, and basically just use them to do the work while you essentially do the thinking. I think it's really cool.
that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it is. It is. And a coworker buddy is the way to think about it. I mean, it's there to help you, and you gotta have to kind of adopt that thinking to really leverage it.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you think the edges of this utility is today in the world, and where do you think it will be in about 6 months? Like, for example, if you had to think about, oh, an AI can't do that, oh, an agent can't do that, and where you think that edge is today, and where do you think it will be in 6 months?
That's a good question. I think it has to do more. I don't know if there's anything, at least in my business, that I would say, there's some personal relationship. There's some areas in sales and some things maybe with buyers and some things I wouldn't just release my agents on, right? Like, but from an operational standpoint, in analyzing and giving suggestions, kind of what Diesel Dan is doing, or even making decisions and clicks, I really do feel that it comes much more there. I don't know if we're truly limited today in what we can probably create. Or even if you go with AI agent and how we analyze and forecast data, right there, you can go really far, I think, in machine learning today. But um but I think the limitation and where the barrier that's going to be lowered in the next 6 months and 6 months after that is just, the data accessibility and people's understanding of how to empower these agents and work and create. And, it's still a technical aspect. It's still like, we got ChatGPT and we play on it and we think it's so easy.
Way too broad.
Yeah, the build an agent that actually even Diesel Dan, it's still development. It still takes a developer. It still takes a technical background, one that I don't have, or and what we can do as operators is really just kind of paint the picture. What's the end result that we're looking for? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Be more clear in that. And then yeah, I think as far as where we are today, really, I think that barrier is going to get lower. I do think we'll get to a point, maybe not in 6 months, but a point where I can go create an agent, and that's where I think this thing just sky's the limit. That's when you'll see your first, single man or woman $1 billion company.
Technically, you could do that today on the manufacturer platform. You want to build your own agent? I can help you do that today.
There you go. So yeah, I think as we get there, right, as your platform expands and as other platforms like that expand, and you put kind of that power into the average employee's hands, that's where you're going to see a whole new level of efficiency and operating efficiency and leverage.
One question for you is, you guys have a third party that helps you with these automations and all these things. And this is such a red ocean of dev shops and partners out there, partners who essentially are like, hey, we can actually help you build tech. And they're dev shops who became AI shops. And, how do you navigate the idea maze of this person gets what I want, this person's not blowing smoke up my ass, and this person actually is not just overcharging me, or this person actually gets it? Like, how do you I navigate that idea maze for vendors when consumer companies are looking for this, right? Uh, at the end of the day, everyone has different needs and they're all building their own thing. So, how do you navigate that maze of vendors?
Yeah, I think that's really tough, right? I mean, it's think about how important it is to pick the right person when you're hiring someone, right? You kind of don't know, you can only do so much before they're actually in the job and you're working with them, right? So it's the same. I think it's the same problem when you're picking one of these vendors. You can only suss out so much of who is this potential partner and vendor that you're working with, um, without actually engaging. So, what we like to do is we like to start small, right? So here's one thing that we want to accomplish. I don't want a big retainer. I don't want a big thing. I just want one project. Let's see how we work together. It's if it doesn't work great, it wasn't a big loss, type of deal. And that gives us now, look, you're not always in a situation where you can do that, right? Maybe it's a big implementation, maybe it's a big project, but that's how we like to get started. And really, you also have to realize that these vendors, they are devs. They're not CPG people typically. They're not manufacturers. So you have to really understand how to articulate or
You talk that
what
talk.
your goal is. Yeah, and the good ones will help break it down for you. And that's how you kind of know too. Can they get to my level? Can they talk with me even if they don't know all the processes or the supply chain aspects? Like, that's okay. I'm the supply chain pro and they are the developer pro. Just and that's why let them tell me what the technology solution is going to be, and I'll tell them what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go. So, but yeah, I don't think there's a formula for it. I don't think there's one formula. I think you kind of have to tiptoe into a relationship and try not to make a huge commitment if you're in a position where you don't have to, or have an out, right? But we have a saying that scared money don't make money. That's a dude wipe thing, and and with that, I think that's taking a risk on a partner, a developer partner, right? And references are huge too, right? You want to work with somebody so those are big deals. But yeah, but yeah, don't be scared to take the leap. It's where the world's going. So you gotta find your partner, for sure.
Do you ever foresee bringing in this in-house, bringing this capability to build agents in-house, like hiring your own developer AI person to do it in-house?
Definitely maybe. I don't think it's off the table. I do think though, as you said, your guys' platform already is lowering the bar on how you create agents. I want to see where the technology goes to get the right person, right? Because eventually I don't know how technical am I going to need that person to be. Because what I would love it to be is I would love a business person to be able to who knows how they want it to work to then really be able to go do it. So, I want to find the right balance. I don't feel like I need to rush in. I think our partner, at least we feel really comfortable with our partner and the pricing and everything. So right now it's making sense. The ROI is still there. So, um, yeah, let's let the technology kind of play out a little bit longer and see if that bar lowers a little bit.
Yeah, let's figure out how to vibe code an agent. That's the
There you
goal.
go. How to vibe code an agent would be great. So,
Yeah, we should
yeah.
vibe code an agent. Like just sit in there, write the prompts, and then they create an agent for you with your APIs. And MCP allows you to just go live in 6 hours.
I really think we will be there. That we're not at yet, at least from my experience, but that I do think we're gonna get there.
Yeah, you guys are so far ahead of the curve. It's amazing. You guys are awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you so much for bearing with us. This has been so much fun to have you on the show again, and we're really excited to release this episode. And Pranay, obviously, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, guys.
And there you have it. It was a pleasure chatting with Greg, and it was great chatting about Dude Wipes and about how they're utilizing AI with, of course, Diesel Dam and the Craft team. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I certainly learned a lot here about operations. And thank you as well to Pranay for assisting me with moderating this session.